Hello, everyone. Welcome to a laser-rific edition of ARG Presents. I am Amigo Aaron, joined by a man who gets out of bed by hitting up, action button up, the Brent.
Man, I haven't had an action button for so many years.
What do you use? Just a lot of ups?
I'm just trackball. You just have to keep spinning that thing and hope I get to go the direction you want.
It's a big ball. So, you joined us last week. We spun the wheel. We made the deal.
Yes.
And this week, we'll be playing games. And we're excited about this one, right, Brent?
Yes.
On the Laserdisc platform.
Yes.
Now, Brent, we both grew up in the heyday of
Yes.
Laserdisc. I mean, it was a little late for you, but you still got on
Oh,
board.
no, I was there. I was there. Fully.
What's your opinion? Now, a lot of people poo-poo the Laserdisc games. What are your thoughts, sir?
Okay. As an actual game, they're absolute crap.
What?
No, they're crap. But as an art form and an entertainment platform, they are incredible.
I'm going to disagree with you. They're awesome all across the board.
No, come on, man. There's no gameplay to them.
Incorrect.
You're basically playing a DVD menu.
Listen, games are games, brother. You could do. Sometimes it's a game where there's action. Sometimes a game where there's art. It's memorization. It's fun.
It is memorization.
It's fun stuff. Plus, some of these latest games had some good arcade qualities. They did.
Okay. Well, I can't wait for you to talk about them.
Oh, my God. So, before we get into our games, I just thought it'd be fun to kind of run down, because Laserdisc games, they just sort of showed up one day.
They did.
Back in the 80s. And so I thought we'd just kind of a brief look at what exactly was going on with the whole Laserdisc situation. So, of course, the Laserdisc came out of Japan. Yeah. And where you've had your VHS, you had your Betamax. And Laserdisc said, "Hey, we can get some of that action."
Yes.
And so they wanted to get some of that action. So here they come. They are, they're big, shiny discs. I remember Laserdisc players back in the day, and they were sort of a high-end video files dream deck. They were not cheap. They did not hold a ton. They didn't hold as much as a videotape in terms of the ability. You just sit and watch the whole movie without having to flip the thing over or have multiple discs, right?
Yep.
Now, did you ever own a Laserdisc player?
Oh, you kidding me? No. I wasn't made of money.
The technology used in Laserdisc went on to be utilized off that whole disc era. Mm-hmm. I remember hearing a lot about Laserdisc because of their collectability.
Yes.
You would get stuff that was released in Japan, for example, that would not have been released here. I remember I was a big fan of Army of Darkness, for example. And at the end of Army of Darkness, I always heard about, and which is odd because Army of Darkness doesn't seem like it was that old, but it came out on Laserdisc in Japan. At the end, I always heard about this secret ending that was tacked on the end, where Ash ended up like waking up in the future, and it was a whole different ending than the original one. And I eventually saw this ending, but back before there was YouTube and stuff, you're like, oh man. Also, concerts were released on it and stuff. The stuff you didn't have.
Yeah, there were a lot of those alternate endings that got tacked onto Laserdisc. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, that was a huge selling point.
So it wasn't too long before the people in arcade games thought, hey, we can get some of that action.
Yep.
And get some action. They did. And so you've got a lot of games that come out on Laserdisc. Now, I've got a big, huge list, which I'm not going to go through. I'm going to touch on a couple.
Sure.
So we can talk about them. And we can talk about some of the things we like. According to a database I looked at, the very first, in terms of year, the very first game that was a Laserdisc type game was a game I've never heard of. I've never seen.
Okay.
In 1982's Quarter Horse. Have you ever heard of that?
Quarter
I'm not even sure it was released. I've never heard of it. Of course, the ones we know well would have been released in '83. Now,
yes,
'83 it was Laserdisc Mania was going wild, running wild, and the titles released that year were Dragon's Lair, Goal to Go, NFL Football, and later, very late in the year, Space Ace. Now, I think we could both agree that spiritually, the number one first released Laserdisc game was probably Dragon's Lair. It's the first one I ever heard of, first one I ever saw in the arcade. There were commercials on TV with it,
yes.
The video with the trailer, the opening scenes in it, and everyone was talking about this amazing video game that you could play a cartoon. That was the gimmick. You could go play a cartoon. Well, yeah, sort of can play a cartoon, right? But I mean, listen, no one loves Dragon's Lair more than me. I love Dragon's Lair. It's my all-time favorite games. I like Don Bluth. He's
great animation.
His whole animation team was awesome on that, and they understood. I think very few games of that sort capture the spirit of the Laserdisc game in the arcade like Dragon's Lair. And I think the main reason is Dragon's Lair was short scenes, rendered quickly. You played it, you lived or died, and you moved on. There weren't these super duper long, complicated scenes until you get to the very end.
Right.
A lot of games, and some we'll talk about today, really took that short concept and pulled it out so long that the scenes got ridiculously hard and were long, and that made the game less fun because you would be on the same scene longer. In fact, the sequel to Dragon's Lair made that mistake in spades.
Although I do prefer that one.
Well, really? Yeah. Not me.
Time Warp did well. We'll talk about it when we get to Time Warp.
Now you've got a couple of different types of Laserdisc games, Ultra. You got the old play a cartoon.
Yeah.
Straightforward.
Quick time events.
Cliffhanger, perfect example. Or game which was during the day, Super Dog Coyote, a bunch of these games.
Yes.
That's what they are. You're playing a cartoon. Then you've got the old use the Laserdisc for video to play the background of some graphics.
Correct.
Now you get into a real. Now these have actual gameplay in them, but it's not often. It's often not that great. And there's a couple off site. Vegas Battle, which is one of the first games I saw in the arcade that had that technique. Another one, Astron's Belt. In Vegas Battle, you actually are shooting other graphics on the screen, whereas Astron's Belt took the interesting position of having you shoot at the video in the background, and then overlaying lasers, your ship, and also overlaying having to switch to explosion scenes,
which was probably the best done of that.
Well, I didn't think it was that good.
I actually like that one.
Now, when you go to the video in the background over a video game, I think the best of the Laserdisc games would be Mach 3. Mach 3 is a game where you take on the role of a jet fighter pilot, and your jet's overlaid on video, and you bomb. There's one you can pick from two games on there. One is a bombing game, and one's a shooting, like from behind the jet game. And they overlay the explosions on the screen. I thought that was a really good one. Another one that I thought was pretty good when I saw it was Firefox, Firefox, which is based on the film. They did a pretty good job in that one as well. Really, after that, that's pretty much. I'm trying to think. There's not really another technique to use. Yeah, those are pretty much the way the games go.
Well, you do have your one other. You're kind of your Mad Dog McCree type game.
Your shooting game, which is again you're shooting at live video, and they've overlaid some graphics. Now there were quite a few of these actually. There was was it called Crime Patrol or something like that? American Laser made a ton of these and
really it was a really good use of it because your one action of shooting controlled what happened to the next part of it, and it was always your shot is what triggered the rest of the game. So in that kind of regards, those games really played better than any other game from the Laserdisc era, in my opinion.
Well, the Mad Dog McCree games and shooting games, I mean, they did lend themselves to that genre a little bit.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree with you. Plus, there is some video game. I mean, your aim and stuff matter. They've got, so and now of course, something else that's synonymous with Laserdisc games is god awful, hideous, over the top acting. Yeah. Not only in voice acting, but in actual physical being on the film acting. And Mad Dog McCree and all those games feature the worst, like below porn level acting.
Oh no, that's certainly not. No, we're gonna play one today that had far worse acting. At least with the Mad Dog McCree, they had stuntmen doing stunts that were impressive to watch. People falling off buildings, jumping through windows, that sort of thing. So acting wasn't nearly as important as the actions taking place. Right.
And just to go in a couple of the shooting at the screen games, you get your Mad Dogs 1 and 2. Crime Patrol was 1 and 2. Those are the ones I saw quite a bit with those.
Yes.
I want to touch on a game called Thayer's Quest, which is an unremarkable laser game, except for the fact that it actually featured a keyboard. I remember seeing that in the arcade and being blown away. This was a Laserdisc game. It was an adventure game that featured some sort of keyboard interface. I've played it a couple times in the arcade and can't figure out what the hell I was doing and just gave up. And it's one of those games I've never really tried at home because the animation in it is kind of cut rate. which is another hallmark.
Well, I wouldn't say it's cut rate.
I would. I think it's cut rate.
I would say it is. It's not as good as Don Bluth games, of course, but I think that it was fine. The voice acting in it was really bad.
Some of these games they came out just at the right time to get a home release on the rising CD platform.
Yes.
For example, the Sega CD and the like got some of these games. The Time Gal comes to mind is one it got. I think the Mad Dogs appeared on a lot of different
Absolutely.
Dragon's Lair is one of the most ported games of all time.
Yes, even the things that shouldn't be ported to, like the Game Boy.
Yeah, which was really impressive. It was incredibly impressive game. So the genre, really, American Laser kept the Laserdisc game running for quite a long time.
Well past.
Yeah, because pretty much everyone else gave up on it. Now, tell us some of the pitfalls of being the arcade owner, manager, and running Laserdisc games in your arcade.
It broke a Matic 3000 is what the Laserdisc system was. Unfortunately, Laserdisc, the player, all of them were prone to failure. Some were better than others, and some were far, far worse.
When I remember when the original Dragon's Lair came out, I believe, as I recall, the story goes that these were shipped with consumer Laserdisc players in them, and so they weren't built to run day and night for years.
Correct.
And so I would see people do this all the time because Dragon's Lair, you could put your quarter in and be dead in a minute.
Yeah.
And people would get mad and they would punch and kick the machine. And you could physically see the disc skip. There was I remember a Dragon's Lair machine in a bowling alley I would go to that you could actually hit the side of it and you could, right during the demo and get it to do stuff. It was real jacked up. So these things were incredibly prone to failure. Now, eventually, to bring these home, there's a brilliant programmer who made a program called Daphne, and Daphne took care of a lot of issues. For one thing, it simulated a virtual version of the CD of the DVD. Also, you could actually, in fact, his original intention was to have these running in actual machines. You could actually have the scoreboard and stuff hooked up through Daphne as well.
Yes,
if you wanted to. And I would wager that most people that have played these at home on their emulation device have ran it through Daphne.
Absolutely,
it's pretty much the ipso facto thing. It's funny. I heard an interview with the fellow that made it. I think he's a Mormon guy. He's a very, very devout guy, and he was real worried about piracy and stuff. So he was a real deep dude. I was kind of surprised, but yeah, he did this just because he wanted to have Laserdisc and his thing was jacked up.
Yeah,
so he made it up. The way great emulation is often devised.
Yes. Two other things to mention about Laserdisc. The first thing I saw this happen. Dragon's Lair had a television setting on top of the cabinet where people behind the player could get a good view of what was happening on the screen. I'd never seen that before. Dragon's Lair.
I agree. I've never seen it either. And of course, the reason that was important is because this thing, nothing attracted a crowd, especially when the first year it was out, like Dragon's Lair. And you couldn't get near the machine, and so they would put these TVs on top so people in the arcade could see what was going on.
Yes,
because they wanted you to see this awesome game. There was an arcade around here called Aladdin's Castle. It was at our local Charleston Town Center Mall.
The Aladdin Castle is a chain.
Yeah, and they had a Laserdisc lineup to beat the band.
Yeah,
they really had.
They
had real obscure ones too. They had the Vegas Battles, and Cliffhangers, and of course Dragon's Lairs and Space Ace. They had I think they had at one time they had 7 different laser games, as I recall.
Wow.
I remember counting them out. And this was a golden age. And when these things earned, they were big earners. But when the bloom was off, they went downhill pretty quick. Yeah. And the cost of keeping them running made them sort of a flash in the pan when it comes to arcades.
Absolutely.
It's not like you're going to walk into an arcade now. You might walk in and see a Galaga or a Miss Pac-Man or something. You might even see like a Bad Dudes or a Tetris. But the chances of you walking in to finding a Laserdisc player are practically zero. Yeah,
Laserdisc player.
Practically zero. I remember the Kentucky arcade I used to go to, they had a Dragon's Lair 2 Time Warp cabinet behind the counter for the entire time I went there.
Yes. It was permanently broken.
I tried to buy it over and over, and the guy wanted like $18 billion. Yeah. He's like, I'm not selling nothing. I was like, all right. And then they went out of business. So that was probably, in retrospect, he should have sold me the cab.
So with the bonus side with Time Warp was there was so much more game as compared to Dragon Slayer. I mean, the length of the game was what, 4 times as long?
Yeah,
it was huge.
So it is the thing about Laserdisc games. The range of how long you could play them, it is real large. I mean, there's a big gap between, and the earlier ones were a little bit shorter. What it was. So, with that in mind, we chose 2 games from the beautiful, colorful pantheon of Laserdisc games. And Brent, I guess I'm going to start the show this week.
I believe you should, yes.
And what we've got here is the best game ever made. It's Esch's Aurunmilla. Now, a lot of people are like, what is Esch's Aurunmilla? How do you pronounce it? No one knows. Oh, if you watch the game, you do here now. So, Esch's Aurunmilla was released in 1984. All right. Now, there's some debate on this, which I'll get into. It was developed by an outfit called Funai. Now, they actually had they did a couple games, and they were all laser games. Right. Well, they did a game called Zangus that I can vaguely find any reference to, and I've never seen pictures of it or what it looks like. The other game they did was Interstellar Laser Fantasy, that's the name of my first album. I don't know if you knew that. It was also produced by Gakken. Again, these names. So this game was a standard Laserdisc game. It's as standard as you get. You had a joystick, 8-directional joystick, the whole 9 yards. And this was it's believed that Esch was an upgrade kit for Interstellar Laser Fantasy. Okay, so but the thing about it is the rarity of this makes it so difficult to determine what the hell was going on that there is some question as to what happened. So this game, the funny thing about this, when it was debuted, it was presented at a trade show in the U.S. in Milan. But the funny thing about it is no one's 100% sure if Funai actually did the game or they're just using Funai as like a front. Okay, that's so. There are and the logos in it are, from what I read a couple of spots, including Wiki, is that people state that the Funai image of their logo is wrong. It's not the right image, and so there's speculation that this is that this game is sort of a who knows? It's one of those mystery games, right? So you've got the disc in the game has English on one side, Japanese on the other side, and it's got English, Japanese on both sides, and one side's got only Japanese. I don't know why.
Makes sense.
The thing about these, at least just often, they would have 2 sides, amazingly, but sometimes they would put
multiple audio tracks. Yeah.
Right. So
pretty common.
Let's talk with this game now. In this game, you do not play Esch. That's the mistake number 1 that a lot of people.
That's correct.
You play good old fashioned Don Davis.
That's right.
Okay. So Don Davis. Well, let me try to set the stage here. So picture the universe. Picture Orion, the Orion Galaxy, right? You're hanging out there. That's where you live, right? You're Don Davis.
Right.
Here comes Esch. Now, what is Esch's Aurunmilla? Okay, it's his Aurunmilla. I'll get this right eventually. It's basically like Esch is this little toady-looking geek.
Yeah.
He's sort of like Dungeon Master from the old D&D cartoon, if more lizardy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'll buy that.
And the Aurunmilla is basically his Death Star. He's got basically an asteroid that he flies around. There's a city on it, right? And what a city, I might add. And so, just to be a jerk, right? Esch is driving his asteroid into the Orion Galaxy. That's where Don Davis lives. And so, he comes into town. He kidnaps Princess Cindy.
That's right.
What a jerk. Cindy, by the way, spelled S-I-N.
That's right.
Just to give her a little extra something. And she takes Cindy away. So Don Davis has to kick it in. Don Davis if Dirk the Daring and Space Ace had a slow child, it would be Don Davis. Don Davis is
very true.
He got his wardrobe. It looks like he went to Ace Frehley's yard sale to get this thing. There's things pointing out the side. It's baby blue and yellow and red, and Don has this unkept blonde hair. And he has the voice like the biggest dork you ever heard.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to assume the Japanese version of this, he sounds less like a geek. I mean, can you make a guy sound any geek?
No, the voiceovers in this are the worst.
They get better as it goes. I'm assuming, my guess is they actually filmed this audio in order. Because at first he's sort of tentative. Like in the very first scene where he's talking, and when you move him around, he makes noise. And like Dirk would be like, "Rrr, rrr."
Yeah.
This guy goes, "Oh,
yeah,
ooh, which way? Ooh."
When he says, "Well, which way should I go?" He says it in a way not of confusion, but more of bewilderment. Like he doesn't know what way left and right are.
Yeah. So when you start the game, you're in your Don Davis spaceship.
That's right.
And he's flying along, and it plays this song, and something else. This game has music that was made for the game. This isn't like, I mean, they hired a chorus, they hired musicians to make this song.
Well, I don't know if they were paid them, but
and
yeah,
so
they hired them.
The very first song, it goes Cindy. It's got a chorus singing Cindy's name to motivate you to go save. Don needs to get motivated, fired up.
That's right.
And so you drive your spaceship. Now, unlike Space Ace, this game is way harder. And one of the first things you're going to notice is Space Ace, your directions were up, down, left, right. And you had the old action button.
Right. 5 choices.
This game has diagonals.
Yes, and they use them.
Okay, and so and let me tell you something. Up and right and up, they ain't the same, brother. If you don't get the diagonal right, you're boned. So and you learn this immediately.
Yeah.
Because as you fly in, you have to sort of maneuver your ship in a docking bay. All right, and that means diagonals. Now, if you'll recall, Street Fighter cunningly would have things on the screen flash.
Street
Fighter. Yeah, Street Fighter had things on the screen flash. Dragon's Lair had things on the screen flash. And when it flashed, you'd be like, "Hey, look, there was a flash over yonder. I better, hit that way." And so it gave you a little bump.
Yeah.
This one, actually, there's a couple ways because you can sort of pick your difficulty level on this one. The easiest level.
Don't play it on hard.
Yeah. On the easiest level, you get on-screen cues.
Yeah,
effectively.
An asterisk.
It's an asterisk that'll appear, or it'll say something, and you hit the joystick that way. Even with those cues, it's real hard.
It's a difficult game.
So,
I mean, it's more difficult than say Dragon's Lair because the sequences are so long.
I think it's really difficult. I think it's way more difficult than Time Warp too. So, again, Dawn has to land on this asteroid to go get her. So the resulting gameplay that comes from this is you are running through these teleport chambers.
Yes. And
you're getting teleported to different areas where you will have your encounters. Yes. Okay. Just for a few examples, the first area, you were in this like large, vast area with these vines, and the vines are made up of missiles that shoot out of them.
Missile vines.
And so Ash has to bumblingly, stupidly run through this without getting killed. I'll do like at one point, he whips out his sword and just cuts one clean in twain. This is a running theme for Don, because most of this game is you running around like a maniac, trying not to get killed by the 4 billion various hazards in this. Yes. Now, Don will fall a lot. He will jump a lot off little platforms.
Yeah.
And he will basically whine a lot. That's basically what he does. And you maneuver him with the joystick, and occasionally when you'll hit the action button. Now in this game, it's not a sword button or a jump button. I think it's called an escape button. If you watch the opening narration, and it tells you, and it's very. I like the way they put this. If you hit the buttons at the wrong time, then Don falls into the trap.
Yes.
And that's exactly. And you're basically you're boned. It doesn't give you any second chances. No. There's a lady villain in this called the Aurunmilla. All right, now there's a great scene where Don, he shows up in this beautiful like tree filled grassland or something, like a prairie, and this hot chick comes rolling out from behind a tree, and she offers Don a glass. Like, keep in mind, Don's trying to get Cindy from the evil Ash, right? He's like, oh, she's beautiful, yeah.
He's into it.
He talks. He's like, yeah, hot. Yeah. And he's checking her out, and then she gets ready to drink this stuff. Well, if you're smart, you throw it down, and you end up fighting her. And so she's sort of like Ash's evil. I don't know if there's any connection between the two. They don't actually show them in these scenes together, but she's around, a couple times.
So, you fight her twice.
Yeah, you fight her twice. So there are several scenes in this that are straight up ripped off from Dragon's Lair. There's a scene where you encounter these laser gates. They're going like this. It's exactly like the scene in Dragon's Lair where those things just spin around. Yeah. You have to go through them. There's a scene where you're on like an elevator. And you have to jump off. Except you're on a pane of glass or something when you're doing it. There's a scene with like multicolored balls.
Yep.
In it, so they were more than happy to hork some of the good. But I mean,
they borrowed some ideas.
There was so much stuff going on in this. I mean, this is the most manic Laserdisc game of all time. It's crazy. It is very similar to Dragon's Lair 2 Time Warp, in that when you start a scene. No, I'm talking from a difficulty perspective. When you start a scene, this scene is not going to be quick. I mean, you're going to be in there for a minute or two. Of jumping around. I mean, it's
the worst part, and the worst part about it is if you don't complete the scene, you don't move.
That's right. Yeah, unlike Dragon's Lair, where you would basically start and it would just take you somewhere else. This you have to repeat it because it's all linear. There's no randomness to it. It's the same every time you play it.
Right.
Which is another thing you see in some Laserdisc games. Not all of them, but some are like that. Like because they're telling a story, and effectively you're watching a movie. When you play the game. So if you get all the way through this, it is a miracle. But you can actually get to the end. There's just to touch on some of my favorite scenes in it. There's a scene where Ash is in the desert and he's attacked by these desert piranhas. Did you see that one?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And he's fighting these piranhas, and he's eventually beats the tar out of them, and they start running away, and he's laughing at him. He's like, "Yeah, I showed you." Yeah. And then this huge one comes out and tries to eat him. It ends up kicking its butt, and then he laughs at him some more as he goes away. Dawn has a continual dialogue in this game.
Yes.
Like
really poor continual dialogue.
There's a scene where he's fighting vampires and a Frankenstein monster. Yeah. In this, don't ask me what's going on at Ash's Umbrella. I don't even know what kind of town this is to have this stuff going on. But he's talking about these guys. He's like, oh, yuck, look at that. What's that sticky stuff? Looks like meatloaf. I remember he said that.
Yes.
He said, looks like meatloaf. I thought, what? So if you want to hear, he's a lot like Popeye. He just mutters.
He talks under his breath all the time.
He mutters wimpily to himself quite a bit. But he thinks he's awesome. And if you get far enough in the game, since you heard the Cindy song, there's a Dawn song too.
And it's awesome. It's worth YouTubing alone.
It's like, Don Davis! Don Davis! And he comes rolling across the bridge. There's a lot of tongue-in-cheekness to it. And the funny thing about it is the art is not bad, is it?
Yeah, it's
I mean, he's drawn like a geek.
Yeah, it's not Don Bluth quality, but it's still good.
No, it's not Don Bluth quality. You got that right. Now, when you get to the end of the game, this classic, so your Cindy is basically pinched between these giant fingers. And Don rolls up, and he basically cuts this. One of my favorite scenes. He cuts the finger off, and he's holding it like this, like, yeah. And he rescues Cindy, and then this little car drives up, and this little geek Ash gets he goes, it's Emperor Ash. He's like, I'm Emperor Ash. Finally, we meet at last, Don Davis. Yeah. And Don just takes him and grabs him and goes, whoop, and just tosses him like a sack. Like the biggest geek.
Yeah.
When Don Davis schools you in geekness, you're a geek.
Of course, that doesn't last.
Yeah, eventually, so Emperor Ash gets mad and grows like 1,000 times his size. Yeah. He's like a giant. So, and unlike most games, when you rescue the princess, you ain't done.
No.
You got to get out of the castle too, and there's a big long scene where he throws you underwater and stuff. You have to defeat him. But the scene where he just tosses Ash is the
it's good.
And the look on Don's face, he doesn't even say anything. He's like yoink, and then just drive off. It's real funny. So, believe it or not, Brent, this is what I was asking you about earlier. This game got a home release. Yes, I was as stunned as you can be. Yes, It got ported to the Palcom MSX Laserdisc home system. Now,
okay.
No, this plays video games.
Okay.
I'd never heard of this.
I haven't either.
Okay. And so I looked into it. And so what you've got here is so picture it. Basically, the system that you could play so was a 3-component thing. Number one, you had to have an MSX machine. Okay.
All right.
The one I looked at that was the most prevalent was the Pioneer PX7. This is all in Japan. And then you have to get a Laserdisc player for the machine. It hooks in like a consumer Laserdisc player. Some of them had some sort of interface that you could hook up to the computer. Then you had to get the disc. These discs are available on eBay. You can actually go buy this game.
Wow.
I looked it up. And if you want to pay, now there's a guy on there selling one right now. It's $1,000 or best offer. I would offer less if you're into that. And you can get the MSX Palcom. Now, I couldn't find any Palcoms for sale. I looked on Japanese eBay. I couldn't find any over there either. You know, Japanese eBay has all kinds of crazy stuff on it. But I couldn't find jack squat. But you could play this at home on an actual Laserdisc if you wanted to, if you're willing to buy it, which is cool. Now, let's talk about the actual video arcade game itself and its availability to play it, to bring home. As I mentioned, this thing only had this was basically released as a conversion. Now, the funny thing is, Interstellar Laser Fantasy, which this thing was converting from, doesn't have the control panel to support ASH. So the conversion kit included an ASH control panel and a bezel and a marquee and, of course, the disc. Okay? It is one of the rarest games out there. It's super duper rare. And you're probably never going to find one. Here it is. Ash's Unreal is one of the rarest games recorded on the Video Game Preservation Society webpage. As of 2017, and I don't have any reason why I would think this would have changed, there are 3 existing arcade machines registered on VAPS, and the rest of them are listed are parts of kits. They don't have a full, complete kit. Incredibly difficult machine to find. This is one we never saw.
No, absolutely
And we
not.
discovered this right after Daphne came out. And I remember you had a real battle with this.
Yes.
We thought you were getting pretty close, and you weren't even nowhere near the end of that one. It went on forever. And this is back when there were no save states or anything. You were just basically playing it
all the way, yeah.
I recommend Shamarillo. It's a fun, wacky game. The music in it's absolutely wacky. The geek is wacky. It's the answer to the question, instead of can we have both? Instead of just Dirk or Space Ace, we want both. Well, you've got both. And this is the result. The geeky Dexter combined with the geeky Dirk to make an ultra super geek. So I liked it. I liked it a lot.
I enjoyed this game. How the voiceovers are so bad.
That's what makes them good.
Yeah, they loop back over and become funny. But the playability of this is really low. It's a Laserdisc game. No, I mean even low for a Laserdisc game. Having to repeat the entire stage every time that you die, and some of these stages are long.
All of them.
It's grinding, and having diagonals in your game when, I mean, really, sticks aren't great at picking up diagonals anyway. I mean, unless you have a really good stick. So you have to have a really good stick.
I agree. That was a poor design choice because this game's hard enough if we just had the directions of the button.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it might not sound like a lot, but adding in those 4 extra possibilities, plus you have to say, well, I think I hit down diagonal. Did I really hit down diagonal? And then it's like, okay, let me try down. Let me try left. Down diagonal left. It just adds so much complexity on how to get through it. Now, if you had a walkthrough and you wanted to do it that way, play it that way, it would probably be okay. The on-screen prompts with the asterisks are great.
Yeah, they're good.
They're really good because some of the other games, Dragon's Lair, Space Ace, where they have the little flashes, if they have the little flashes, they don't always do that, of course, they can still be kind of confusing, but the asterisk almost always goes to a position in the screen where you can tell if they want you to go left or if they want you to go up. The diagonals are sometimes a little wonky. The action button's probably the worst because it actually puts it on your character, and sometimes it's just hard to find.
The problem, there's having the asterisks and the on-screen prompts is a double-edged sword because unlike Dragon Slayer or Spaces, where you had to literally animate those in. I mean, they animated those flashes in.
Yeah.
This game doesn't, so you don't have to do that in this. It makes it a lot easier, but this gives you carte blanche to put moves in at your leisure.
Yeah.
And you can just go crazy. I think that's what they did. They're like, oh, heck, we could put 3 moves here. Let's put 10,
Yeah.
And so it's like, bang, 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 it's crazy time.
Yeah, and the humor or the lovability of Don wears on you after a while.
I think he got funnier as the game went on.
Oh, his actions and his mannerisms got funnier, but when you're watching scene 6 for the 14,000th time, he's not funny anymore. You just want him to get hurt.
Well, don't worry.
Yeah,
that's going to happen too.
But I mean, would I rank this as high as say Space Ace or Dragon Slayer? No, I would put this in the mid tier of QuickTime event laser game.
Feel like your Don Quixote.
Yes, that.
I will say this: for me, Eshel Morilla is a lot like a Mystery Science Theater episode wrapped in a game. It's dopey. It's cliched. The characters are idiots. The bad guy's a doofus.
Yes,
and
that's all true.
And you enjoy yourself the entire time.
Well, no, I don't agree with that. But we'll have to. There you go.
So, with that all in mind, let's move forward into your selection, Brent, this week. What do you got for us?
I brought to the table Time Traveler.
Ooh.
And also can be called Hologram Time Traveler. It goes by both names.
So what about Holocene? That's a whole different game.
That's a whole different game.
That's what I thought. Okay.
So yeah, we didn't play that one. Before we talk about Time Traveler, I want to talk about the man behind Time Traveler,
right.
Rick Dyer. That's right. He is responsible for the Dragon Slayer. He's also responsible for producing Space Ace. He was actually the writer on Dragon Slayer.
Very famous cat.
Made all of Thayer's Quest.
Yeah.
Was also the Thayer Quest sequel. He made that as well. That was all the way back in 1996. Have you ever seen that or heard
I didn't
of it?
I didn't even know they had a sequel.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
But his project in between was Time Traveler in '91, and this was really to boost sales for something else, another project he was working on. But let's go back before that a little bit. Rick was an amazing man. He was really innovative and ahead of his time to a fault. The very first thing he made was an interactive storybook that read to you, and you could make choices, and it had some really neat visuals. And he took it to the toy companies, and this would have been in 81, I think, maybe a little bit earlier than that. And the toy company said, "This will never sell. Shelf it. We're not going to use it." And it was devastating because he wanted to make these interactive stories. That was his whole thing. He really loved interactive stories. So he didn't give up. He said, okay, I'm going to shift my attention a little bit. And that's when he came around writing Dragon's Lair. And he said, I'm going to make, since the interactive book idea didn't work, I'm going to make an interactive game. And he put a lot of heart and soul and got Don Bluth on board, which was huge for the game because it stunning visuals. Put this thing in the arcade, and it made tons of money. Absolute tons of money.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't rest on that. He said, you know what, I'm gonna keep going. Of course, he made Space Ace in the same vein. And Thayer's Quest was in the same year as Space Ace. And Thayer's Quest really went back to more of that interactive story because, like you said, it had a keyboard where you went and you typed in commands and interactions. But this was all leading to a project that he had been working on behind the scenes since Dragon's Lair. Even into Time Traveler. Time Traveler, he saw the technology on display to make the fake holograms, and he licensed the technologies from a Japanese company, and made Time Traveler, but it was all to boost revenue for his big project, the Halcyon console.
Very rare.
And the Halcyon console, what Rick wanted to do was make a device that was a home console that you could play, that had a Laserdisc in it, but you could also remove the controllers, remove the keyboards. He didn't want any of that. He wanted everything to be speech, voice recognition with AI built in.
Mm-hmm.
And he made these. He had prototypes that were working, that you could say your name, it would learn your name. You had to do your voice recognition and go through all of that. And this was back in the early 80s, into the late 80s, even into the 90s, where he really wanted this console to take off. It fell apart on him, though, because even though he got the voice recognition going, it would recognize a lot of commands. You could start automating your house with this. He had it to where you could turn on and off lights all through voice. And what does that sound exactly like now? The Echoes, the Google Assistants, the Cortanas, the Siris of today, where now, it all kind of works. He was trying to do that 30 years before it actually came out, and he made a lot of progress on it, and he bet the farm. I mean, he really dumped all of his money into it. Here's the problem. The Halcyon console, how much do you think it was going to come out for in 1985?
I do know a lot about this particular topic, and as I recall, the Halcyon, gosh, it was super expensive. It's probably a couple grand.
It was slated to release for $2,500 in 1985.
Yeah, it was real expensive.
That is $5,873 in today money.
Yeah.
And that it killed him. He eventually couldn't sell the technology anymore because it was so expensive, and it all ran off Laserdisc. The AI was programmed to read. The AI was all voice synthesized, which he had also patented or licensed that technology. But the base of everything was off of a Laserdisc. And he kind of got screwed because he was using an off-the-shelf Laserdisc product that went away. So he had to switch to a more expensive Laserdisc product that was actually inferior in size and everything else. So they had to retool everything. But Rick was someone who had incredible vision, and he saw the future before it happened. And that's why when he saw this hologram technology, he knew that he could use something with that to tell a story. And he had actually had plans to make whole theaters using this technology, where you would go and watch movies like in a movie theater with this technology. Of course, it never got to that because the technology was lackluster for that type of operation, and really for the video game itself, it was not great. But Rick, when Halcyon fell apart, he completely left gaming. He completely left technology and all, and he is now a realtor out in California. And that's really sad, because someone who had all this vision of things that we have today that we kind of take for granted, and he was trying to do it 30 years ago, and it just couldn't get it all to work. But
he was a visionary. In some ways, he's sort of the father of the entire genre of Laserdisc.
He is, absolutely, because he wanted to make interactive stories, and that's exactly what he did. And along that way, he made Time Traveler, which is what we're going to talk about today. Time Traveler, its big selling point, because this was well past the boom of Laserdisc games. This was something that had to have a catch, and its catch was it was holographic, which it really wasn't. It used optical illusions with a curved mirror inside the cabinet reflecting a CRT monitor, which gave the illusion of holograms, but there aren't actually holograms because you cannot walk around them in 3D space and still see them, which is technically what is required to be considered a hologram. But as a gimmick, it sold well because it looked amazing in the right lighting in arcades, and it made people come over to you. And during the boom of this game, it was making over $1 million a week, which that's huge money. It unfortunately ran up against Street Fighter II and Mortal Kombat. It came out just before, which probably saved it the little bit that it did. So in this game, you play as Marshall Graham, the rootinest, tootinest cowboy in the West. And you are served with a mission: save the universe.
Yeah.
That's right. That you could go anywhere in time and pick out a hero, but you pulled a guy from the Midwest, or from the Old West. From the Midwest and the Old West, to save the universe. And you travel throughout the timeline, trying to defeat evil in all of its forms. A very unique part of this game is, while it is linear in once you pick a level, that level is sort of linear. The events are linear inside the level. The levels that you pick are random except for the last one. The levels that you can choose from are actually eras of time. 1873 being an Old West setting. There's one that's just like alien letters that are magic runes, so it's the age of magic. 1998, which would have been 7 years into the future when this game was made. It was called the post-apocalyptic
I like the
era.
first thing you see in that era is somebody getting drugged.
Yeah. He
was we knew what he was talking about.
You can travel to 50,000 BC, fight the cavemen, because you know they're really screwing up time. You can go to 2173, and this is where robots and robot factories and robot men are all over the place. Funny thing about that, the robots that they used in that are a robot called Magic Mike. It's an actual toy robot that they had to get permission to use in their video game, and they actually thank the company that makes them at the end. I had to.
I've never even seen that level.
So. Yeah. You've also got 1350, which is your medieval / samurai / kung fu era. You also have the final stage, which is 2552, which is an odd mix of magic and future, with elements of both, more on the sci-fi side than anything else, but it still has magic potions and stuff in that era, so it's kind of weird. This is an odd game where all of your choices are shoot the person, stab the person with a sword that you pick up, or punch the person until they don't move anymore.
Might is right in time travel. That's how you fix the time stream, by killing. Kill and kill again.
Two famous scenes in this game both come from the 1998 time period. One is, because you just kind of appear in these levels. So whoever's around you when you appear are startled, you know. So in 1998, you appear on a street and there's a drug deal going down. Yeah. And the drug dealers kind of freak out and they turn to shoot you. So you shoot them, and then your hero turns and looks at the screen and says, "Drugs will kill you, brother." Well, yeah, you just shot him. So, you know, I guess drugs will kill.
That's why you do it.
This is probably the most famous scene from the game. You drop in to the middle of a baseball game, and the pitch is already in air as you come in, so you have to duck the pitch. And after you duck the pitch, the batter and the catcher and the umpire and the pitcher all kind of like, what's that? So what do you have to do? Of course, you shoot the pitcher and the catcher, or the pitcher and the batter. Just shoot them dead. I mean, they weren't even being a threat. You just shoot them dead, and then you teleport out of there. So it's just complete.
They were both going to be the next Hitler.
That's it. That's it.
Had to pop a cap. Take care of them.
So the overall story of this game, the actual winning and saving the universe is saving a princess.
Again?
Yeah.
They ripped off Ash.
Yeah. So that's kind of odd that saving her is what ultimately saves the universe. I guess it's also defeating the bad guy, but they very loosely go into that. Some aspects of this game that were made it special outside of the holographic thing is time reversal cubes. And this was a thing where in all these games, the worst part of it is going through a series event and dying on the last move, or not being able to get back to it. But you could hit your time reversal cube, and it would rewind time about between 3 and 7 seconds, and you could try again. This was a brilliant play on the whole theme as it was. Watching all the action go backwards was really fun. The problem with this is when you rewind time, you still have to do all the actions again to get to the point you were at. And sometimes they will rewind time to right before you need to do an action. And if you aren't right on it, you instantly die. Instantly die. It's so cheap. I don't know if that was they planned it that way or it was just a part of the execution, but you can rewind time and just instantly die.
I never use those cubes.
Oh my gosh. No, you gotta use them.
One thing I thought was particularly cheesy is the fact that you could buy more of those time things with real money.
Yeah.
You have to pay more money to get some time reversal cubes. You can load up.
That's right. Weak. No, that's just the way to do it. I mean, these things are quarter droppers. That's the whole point of them. All of the game is backgroundless, I suppose. You might have a few props on screen, like a barrel or a sign or a mushroom, to kind of help signify what time period you're in. But otherwise, to make the hologram effect work, you could only have a limited amount of stuff and it all be in the same plane. So you couldn't have your backgrounds because it would just mesh right against with your foregrounds and you couldn't have them. For that reason, the game looks very plain. I mean, especially
it's like you're in the void.
Yeah, especially if you're playing it on your home system where you're not getting that holographic effect. It looks very plain, but it's because of the technology at the time had to be that way. In the arcade, or on the arcade machine, the holographic images look to be about 5-6 inches tall, which is kind of a neat effect because you can read. There's no glass stopping you from reaching out and touching where the holograms would be. That was a huge draw. That's something that really made people get around this cabinet when it first came out. And
I did it every time I ever saw it.
Yeah, it was really neat. It was really neat. Again, though, not real holograms, but the effect was really well done for the era, for the time period. As long as the cabinet was in a slightly darkened part of the arcade, and this was really when arcades had started turning on the lights, unfortunately. But it was a really neat effect. What did you think of this game? I enjoy this game. The acting in it is really campy. It's super over the top. You could tell that the actors that they got to do this, and if you look in their IMDb, none of these people did anything else.
No, just one query before I move on. Did this ran on the same? This run on the same box as the Coliseum game?
It did.
Okay, yes. So that was a conversion kit from this or to this?
No, this was the original.
This was the original.
Yeah, Coliseum was made in an attempt to compete with Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
This machine, I remember when these first came out in the arcade, a couple places had them. And these things were big.
Yes.
They were monstrous. And they were white, and you couldn't miss them. And I never hardly saw anyone ever playing them. They went unplayed, basically.
Wow.
I'm just telling you.
I don't remember that.
No one ever played these. I don't think I saw another person ever play one of these except for me. and I would occasionally give it a shot. And the reason is it's not that good. The game itself, now there are some things I think were amusing. It has a tutorial mode, which is a good idea, but it's a hard game. It's hard.
Yes, it is difficult,
and it amazes me that people would spend all the money it would take to produce a game like this and license the technology, and then cheap out on the actual game. The plot is dumb. The acting is it makes Don look like a brilliant actor. These actors are the dirt worst, and it's not in a cartoon. It's so charming. In a live action like this, it's almost infuriating. There's a wizard that comes out when you get killed. And by the way, can you explain this guy's presence in the game? Because I can't.
I can't.
There's a wizard. It's a guy in like a Merlin's costume that you would buy at Walmart.
Yes. No. The costume's decent. It is. The costume's decent.
It is the dirt worst.
No, it's not.
It's
decent.
Look. And he wanders. He goes, "Wow, Sky! Why did you do this?" He goes around this circle screaming and
spins. He spins in a circle.
He's an idiot. And the cowboy you play, what's the guy's name? He's an idiot too. He acts like a doofus. He's not entertaining. He's not good. You've got a chick guide that kind of tells you what to do. Also an idiot. All of it dumb. Now that said, the effects of the hologram are pretty good. They look pretty cool. The void, I think, sort of adds to it in a way. It reminds me of sort of like, you ever watch the old Star Trek episode Spectre of the Gun, where they're basically just like it's an empty void and there's a cowboy town there. That's what it reminded me of. There are these shapes in the background that always are present.
Well, they just sit there. They're cool. Just blocks of wood.
They're cool looking. No, that looks good. Yeah. Is that what they are? Blocks of wood?
They're blocks of wood.
I didn't know that. They look realistic in there. I thought they were part of the whole overall illusion.
No, they are. They're physical blocks of wood.
Right, but I thought they were holograms.
No, they're physical blocks of wood.
That's cool. But this game is, I mean, listen, there have been a million great time travel stories. And time, like I used to watch a show called Voyagers. It was an awesome show. These guys went back and forth in time to try to fix stuff, right? Good show. They could have just ripped something like that off. But what this has, it makes no sense. And you're right. Shooting this game didn't age well either. You're popping caps in people for no good reason. Here comes some Native Americans, or they pop caps in them. You just appear shooting baseball players. How is this affecting the game? How is the time stream? What is he doing? No. I think this guy's the villain.
He very well could be.
That's what I think. The whole gimmick.
He's one captured princess away from being the villain.
When you go to the store and you can get more of these time reversal cubes, cheese. That's cheesy. Having to pay for that crap, you can't earn anything to get more. Lame.
That's not true.
You can't earn any money to buy them at the store.
No, that's not true. You can actually earn extra lives in this game by visiting by random devil appearances. When the devil shows up, he asks you if you want to.
The devil?
Yeah, the devil. Yes, the actual devil. Satan himself.
The actual guy. Yeah. So they sprung the big money for that guy.
The horns, the whole 9 yards. And he says, "Do you want to gamble?" He's like, "Yeah, let's gamble. Let's play a game of chance. If you don't, he just mocks you and you go on. If you do, a slot machine comes up, and there's a chance of winning either a time reversal cube, an extra man, or he can take your soul and game over."
And you didn't mention this?
That's right. But it's a little part of the game.
Anyways, but that's something.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome.
I guess my overall assessment of this game is it's the technology is interesting. It's interesting to look at.
Yeah.
Would I have one of these in my collection?
No, because they're huge.
They're monstrous. Yes. They're bigger than any pinball machine. They're bigger than any arcade machine, except for a set-down car type machine. And
that's what they are the equivalent of.
And the gameplay, especially for a Sega release, it ain't there, brother.
Well, Sega just licensed
I'm just saying
the game.
Hey, if you put your name on it, you're putting it out there. So this is a dud. Now,
okay. Now I want to refute a few things before you go on. Is the game lame? Yes. Is the acting poor? Yes. But there is a charm, just like with your game, that the hero is so dopey, especially, and it's unfortunate this happens usually in later stages, although the timeline's all jumbled, and sometimes you can get it in earlier stages, where he's up against like other martial artists, and the martial artist will do all these things to show off and pose, and he'll match the pose, and it just in this real like goofy style. Although, since you mentioned he's the villain, I will mention one other scene. There's a part of the game where you get to a karate guy, and he's doing like a kata in front of you, right? And it's time to battle, so he bows down to you. To get past it, you have to, while he's bowing, kick him in the face. That's your hero, ladies and gentlemen.
Also, that's been done. If you ever watched
but
James Bond did that long ago. The old kick in the face. Roger Moore.
But this is it's so out of character for a hero.
Well, this guy's not heroic.
But I emulating this game can be a beast because it is hard to find nowadays.
I didn't hate trouble.
You can. It's because you've had it forever. You can actually buy this. It did have a PC release.
Yep.
It's garbage.
Yeah, it was
absolute garbage.
I think it was Digital Leisure.
Don't bother.
Well, they've got a lot of good releases, and they may have.
This is not one of them.
They may have upgraded by that. I mean, I know this got a release all the time ago that wasn't good, but
you could also buy this for your DVD player. Any DVD player.
Yeah, same group that does it. Yeah.
It is also not great. The delays between pressing the action button and what happens on screen is something you have to get used to. But all of the game is there. The DVD extras are all behind the scenes and casting. Do you know they actually had 1,000 people try out for the characters in this game?
That just goes to show there's 999 hideous actors.
Well,
they picked the ones if these are the ones they picked.
Yeah.
Think about the ones they got rid of.
The behind the scenes of this are worth watching on YouTube, just for the cringe factor. It is really remarkable. Anything else to mention about this game? It cost $1 to play in the arcade when it came out.
That was
and it was during an era where if you had to pay 50 cents to play something, it was crazy time. So that's probably how it made its $1 million a week, was really overcharging. And for a game that could be several minutes long as opposed to 10 or 15 minutes long for your time, it was pretty cheesy.
I will say that so when it comes to a lot of the Laserdisc games are actually all owned by the same company, the rights to distribute, which is, I think it's Digital Leisure.
Yeah.
They do Dragon's Lair, Space Ace. I think these guys are born from the old Ready Soft, but don't hold me to that. If you're an old Amiga or old PC guy. But they release a lot of these. A lot of them they've released a long time ago, and they do update. And one thing you can do is if you buy these, you can use Daphne, which is the best way to run these, the emulator we talked about, and you can actually pull the data off the discs. And they're cool with it. So we did have one set of reviews this week from our good buddy Graham W. Webke, Time Traveler. He said, even though this FMV game is designed by the creator of Dragon's Lair, it's a dull game with only the humor of the characters, enemy personalities, and their outfits saving it. Why is a gunslinger tasked with saving the universe from a Time Lord?
Right.
Why trying to rescue a space princess in a 1980s clothing? I don't know, but I'm still having nightmares from that Amazon queen in a pink skirt squeeze killing me.
Yeah,
and the intro,
great.
Just remember, partner, winners don't use drugs. 5 out of 10.
Oh, Graham.
Graham also continues to have a Esh review. I can't believe I missed this back in the day, and it reminds me of the 1980 cartoons and its presentations. I have since found out this game was huge in Italy. Almost on par with Space Ace, you control Don Davis, who's trying to recover the captured Cindy from Emperor Ash, who wants to take over the world and has cunning traps and environments set to stop you. I found the earlier Flying Piranha stage, 003, quite tough, but I really enjoyed this game. 8 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
Enough said.
Wow.
Now, with all that in mind, we much like time travelers, we're going from the distant past to the current. Let's spin the wheel, Brent.
All right, let's do it. You added to the wheel this week without my permission or authority.
I never asked.
What did you add?
This week we put pack-in games.
Pack-in games. I'm
going to spin it this week.
All right, fair enough.
You've had two
I'll just, you know what?
Here we go. You have a preference this week?
Oh, no.
Here we go.
That was a weak spin. What did you get us, weak spin, McGee?
What did we get? We got...
No, it was on the other one.
No, it was right there.
No, it was on the other one.
Listen, it's Coleco Adam, everybody. Oh. Coleco Adam.
That wasn't what it was on,
yes,
folks.
It was. Coleco Adam. I can't move the thing off the spark. You think I'm trying to cheat the wheel? That'll get you killed. So, I heard from all of our winners on the arcade challenge.
Awesome.
And I have all the addresses. I will be sending out the company arcade packs. Ooh. Also, I got some nice notes about sending us tokens for your art project.
Yes.
And people were very kind. And we're going to, and I'm going to let Brent. He's in charge of our art. He's going to come up with a cunning design with these tokens. And Pack Billy, who was the winner of the arcade design challenge, was stunned to hear that we're going to have some sort of monsters and stuff in here. Yes. But you are currently in production with some sort of gimmick.
Yeah, we're currently working on what kind of artwork. If we're going to do one theme across all the monsters, and either finding that or creating it ourselves. So it is a work in progress. We're hoping to have it ready to unveil by Halloween, because we really want to do it well. That's why we're putting the time in it. And Aaron mentioned the token thing. Another part that we are wanting to do is, since we are, Amigo Studio East is an arcade, we would like to have coins and tokens that you used during your arcade play. Either a foreign coin or a token that you used, and we're going to put those on display here on the wall. So if you would like to send that to us, please contact us at argpresents@mail.com, and we will reward you with a small token, a small prize for sending us your coins.
Yeah, it should be fun. And by the way, just go to your local arcade and just steal some tokens.
Yeah, just bust the machine up.
I've even got some I'm going to contribute, including tokens from the arcade at Graceland, which is going to be awesome. So next week, Brent, we are going to give it a shot.
Yes,
and we will
go at 'em.
We'll see what we can do. I will present it at them and set it right here on the table. So that'll be a lot of fun. So thanks for joining us for this Laserdisc episode. And until next week, laser on.
Travel through time to help history along. Give it a push where it's needed. When the Omni's red, it means history's wrong. Our job's to get everything back on track. Green light, kid. We did it.